Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the quiet corner of Harrowdale, a town nestled within rolling hills and dense woodlands, the tranquility was abruptly shattered one fog-laden morning. The sun loomed low on the horizon, casting a pallid light over the streets as Officer Mark Weston made his routine rounds. His patrol car was the only disturbance, mingling with the hush of nature as a dense mist enveloped the sleepy community. As he crested a small rise overlooking the town square, the sharp echo of a distant alarm jolted his attention. It wasn't uncommon for old storefronts to malfunction, but today felt different. An unsettling sensation prickled at his skin as he parked near the source of the ruckus. The back door of Gable's Grocery, a beloved family-owned establishment that had survived generations. Stepping out of the car, Weston approached the door, noting the glass crunched underfoot shards glittered like fallen stars amidst the alley grime. He hesitated for a moment, hearing nothing but the faint rustle of leaves. Instinct told him it was time to call for backup. Dialing dispatch, he reported the potential break-in, but as he stepped closer, something caught his eye. A trail of dark stains marred the ground, leading away from the rear entrance. As he followed the path, a sense of dread thickened in the air around him. The trail meandered across the back lot, weaving toward the dense thicket behind the store. He was almost afraid to reach the end, yet he felt drawn to follow, compelled by a gnawing curiosity. What had he stumbled upon? His flashlight beam pierced through the fog, illuminating the truth hidden in the gloom. And as Weston ventured deeper into the underbrush, he knew that what awaited him would change everything. The victim. The flashlight beam danced across the underbrush, illuminating scattered debris and finally landing on a crumpled figure. Partially obscured by ferns and twisted branches, Officer Weston's heart raced as he stepped closer, a gnawing sensation for moments before now, surging into a full-blown dread. As he knelt down, the world around him fell silent, save for the pounding of his own heartbeat, echoing in his ears. Lying there, face down, was Mia Carter, a familiar face in Harrowdale, a vibrant young woman, known for her infectious laughter and the warmth she brought to the community. As a barista at the local cafe, she served coffee with a smile, often chatting with the townsfolk who adored her for her spirit. But now, that spirit lay lifeless, her jeans torn and her once radiant aura extinguished beneath a mantle of tragic circumstances. The fog thickened, transforming Mia's once familiar features into nothing more than a haunting silhouette. Weston took a hesitant breath, forcing himself to remain calm, fighting the wave of emotions threatening to pull him under. Lifting his flashlight higher, he examined the scene more closely. There was evidence of a struggle. Leaves and dirt crossing her otherwise tidy appearance. A sense of urgency coursed through him. He reached for his radio, his voice trembling slightly as he relayed the grim discovery to dispatch. "I need backup at Gable's. We have a situation." Despite the stillness around him, tension rushed in. Questions spiraled through his mind. Why was Mia here? What had happened in the moments leading up to her death? His heart sank at the knowledge that every answer withheld might contain the savagery of a crime rising from the darkness. In that moment, the peaceful facade of Harrowdale cracked wide open, revealing a shadowy underbelly that had remained hidden, intricately intertwined with the lives of its unsuspecting residents. The crime scene. Within minutes, the scene transformed as officers descended upon the vicinity, their presence shattering the fragile quiet of Harrowdale. The small town, usually characterized by pleasantries exchanged over coffee and laughter, now became a spectacle of somber professionals, their austere uniforms stark against the backdrop of nature. Officer Weston stood by, steeling himself, as detectives and forensic teams fanned out, each absorbed in their duties. The air was fragrant with the earthy scent of damp wood and moss, mingling distastefully with the bitter tang of something far more sinister. An evidence technician marked off the area with bright yellow tape, calling, "Secure the perimeter!" No one comes in without clearance. Each directive was crisp, carried on a wave of urgency and authority. Weston caught glimpses of detectives huddled over Mia's body, carefully examining the additional signs of violence. A forensic investigator was already photographing the scene, her camera clicking methodically, capturing every nuance of the tragedy angle of Mia's body. The scuff marks leading away, faint traces of blood smudged on nearby rocks. Each click echoed painfully in the reverberating silence, a stark reminder that this once vibrant life had been reduced to a series of morbid details. With a heavy breath, Weston ventured closer, seeking patterns in the chaos. He spotted a small, glimmering object beneath a nearby bush. Leaning down, he discovered Mia's pendant, a simple silver heart that once adorned her neck, node discarded and tarnished in the dirt. It was a chilling testament to the struggle she had endured. As another detective unrolled this scene log, marking the evidence, Weston could barely comprehend the gravity of what they uncovered. Everything you thought you knew about Harrowdale was about to be shaken. Deep within, he felt the stirrings of a larger puzzle, a magnetic force drawing him deeper into the cast, the kind that demanded resolution, no matter the cost. The community's innocence had been stolen, and with it, the echoes of a fresh and frightening danger. The early investigation. The following morning, the atmosphere in Harrowdale was a thick mix of confusion and fear. Schools remained shuttered as parents huddled their children close, and whispers of dread rippled through the town. The news of Mia Carter's death spread like wildfire, igniting a surge of urgent questions. Who would harm such a beloved young woman? Officer Weston, now retracing steps of the past 24 hours, found himself tasked with peeling back layers of the community he had thought he knew so well. At the precinct, detectives gathered around a stark whiteboard plastered with information, a timeline of events scribbled in a hasty scrawl. The room buzzed with low murmurs and occasional bursts of fervent dialogue as lead detective Sarah Flores laid down the facts. Mia was last seen at the cafe closing up around 10 last night, according to her co-workers. Nobody had an inkling something was amiss. Weston, still grappling with the shock of the previous day, shuffled through the notes a forensic analyst had compiled. They viewed surveillance footage from the cafe, anxious to spot anything of interest. Mia's laughter echoed faintly through the static-lit images, and though it felt like a stray thread leading them nowhere, they pressed on, determined to untangle the web. Deconstructing Mia's social media, they noted her last posts laced with positivity. Pictures of friends, sunset selfies, and fleeting moments of joy. But Detective Flores shifted gears, her gaze piercing through the sunshine-filled snapshots. Let's dig deeper. Who had access to her life? Who had more than a passing acquaintance? As whispers of motive and potential suspects began to merge, Officer Weston thought back to the pendant discovered at the scene. It was a personal item, intimate in its abandonment. Perhaps its presence hinted at a deeper connection, someone who knew her well enough to breach that bounds of trust. With every conversation and every fragment of evidence, the painful truth began to coagulate. Harrowdale, with its picturesque charm, was now awash in secrets and lies, an intricate tapestry woven with whispered jealousy, hidden desires, and dark intentions. And at the unfolding core lay the lingering question: who among them would have wished to bring harm to a girl who was loved by so many? The dead ends as days bled into evenings. The buzz surrounding Mia's murder grimly persisted, but leads began to fade into the haze of uncertainty. Officer Weston sat hunched over his desk, the dim light of the precinct casting shadows across stacks of reports and photo prints of Mia's last day. Each piece of evidence felt more like a haunting refrain than a revelation. Detective Flores led a meeting to sift through the lack of progress. "We're not making headway," she stated, her voice laced with frustration. "Every attempt we've made has circled back to the same people, friends. None of them have any substantial alibi or a motive to harm her." Murmurs of agreement filled the room, punctuated by the occasional rustle of paper. Names like Tom, her ex-boyfriend, and Karen, her best friend, floated in and out of conversation, each dismissed one by one. "Tom's been cooperative. He was at home that night." "Which checks out," Flores continued, scanning the sea of faces. "And Karen." She trailed off, frowning. "She's devastated." She didn't see anything unusual. As the conversations tapered into silence, Weston sensed something almost an unshakable feeling that they were overlooking a critical aspect. Picking up a pen, he began sketching the connections between Mia's acquaintances, compelled by an instinct he couldn't quite articulate. Each name was meticulously linked, connections carved from camaraderie, envy, and unspoken tensions. After the meeting, he delved into deeper inquiries, seeking out Mia's online interactions. Social media revealed a flurry of comments on her posts. Among them, one stood out: a series of cryptic messages from an account that seemed to linger just beyond the fringes of her close circle. It belonged to a newcomer, Jamie, who had moved to Harrowdale just months ago. There had been subtler exchanges online, veiled in cheerful banter, but as he pieced through the digital conversation, he unearthed a tone of jealousy slipping into her comments. "What did you really want from her?" Weston muttered to himself, the name gripping his resolve. The sense of being pulled toward a fresh lead ignited within him. He felt a glimmer of hope amidst the stagnation. The hunt for Mia's truth was certainly not over. It had merely shifted direction, leaving room for new fears to unfold in the shadows. A break in the case. As the sun began to set over Harrowdale, casting long shadows across the town, Weston found himself fixated on the glimmers of information illuminating the path forward. His instincts had nudged him toward this new Jamie, the newcomer, an enigmatic character in Mia's life. It felt significant that someone with little history in the community might harbor hidden intention. With determination, Weston arranged a meeting with Jamie. The cafe that Mia had once lit up with her laughter now felt filled with ghosts. The laughter now muted, haunted by loss. He sipped his coffee, scanning the room for Jamie's face. When the tall figure entered, donned in dark, unassuming clothes, Weston felt a pit begin to form in his stomach. "Thanks for Thanks for coming," Weston said, motioning for Jamie to take a seat. The young woman plastered on a polite smile, yet her eyes flickered with an apprehensive energy. Was it guilt, suspicion, or mere discomfort? I heard about Mia. It's terrible. I can't believe something like this could happen here, Jamie said, her voice trembling slightly. Given the gravity of their meeting, her performance felt rehearsed, her posture awash with nerve. Weston watched her closely, launching into questions about Mia and their friendship. Jamie spoke of light-hearted exchanges in passing, but cracks began to form as she evaded specific questions about where they'd met. The true depth of their relationship. Weston leaned forward. I've noticed you comment on her posts quite a bit. It seems you followed her closely. A brief flash of emotion crossed Jamie's face, something caught between annoyance and disbelief. I just liked her energy, she defended, but Weston sensed the walls closing in. He pivoted to the surveillance footage he had unearthed from the cafe. We caught a glimpse of you lurking around the last week before her death, he continued. Those late-night comments staged a different picture than what you projected. The color drained from Jamie's face, the tension uncoiling in the pit of her stomach. She stammered, her composure unraveling. In that moment, the air thickened with the unspoken. A crack in her facade was evident, exposing the underlying anxiety that crept closely behind her every word. I didn't mean to hurt her, she whispered, voice breaking, as the terrifying truth began to surface. Weston pressed the moment, feeling the tide turn. This could be the break they desperately needed. The suspect. The cafe, once a place of camaraderie and warmth, had now morphed into a crucible of tension. Jamie sat frozen in her chair, eyes darting away from Weston's penetrating gaze. The realization of her precarious position settling heavily upon. The faint smell of coffee wafted between them, mingling with the unmistakable scent of fear that enveloped her like a cloak. Do you have an argument? Weston pressed, aware that time was of the essence. Behind Jamie's composed appearance lurked the shadows of something darker. Something unresolved. Did she say or do something to upset you? We need to establish the truth. I didn't mean to. Jamie paused, releasing a shaky breath. I was just angry. I wanted to be her friend, but she kept pulling away. It felt like every time I tried to get close, she just ignored me. She never wanted to hang out. I thought it was just a misunderstanding. Such words painted a haunting reality. Jealousy, the bitter embers of rejection, had turned friendship into animosity. Weston leaned further into the interrogation, feeling the fragile threshold between reason and rage. You followed her online, left com. You viewed her life from the periphery, but did you become more than just an observer? Jamie's panic resurfaced, her fingers fidgeting restlessly with the hem of her shirt. I just wanted her to notice me. It was childish thinking, he regretted. Weston pressed on, his voice steady. But things escalated, didn't they? Were you angry enough to confront her? To harm her? The air thickened as Jamie's resolve crumbled. I didn't hurt her. I would never do anything like that, she exclaimed, her voice rising in desperation. But she wasn't the person I thought she was, and I lost control. I just wanted her to see that I could be her friend, even if it meant doing something extreme. Heavy silence settled as Weston absorbed her words, making the psychological undercurrents of envy and betrayal surfacing like the tide. Jamie's initial intentions now stood corrupted by dark impulses, clear to the victims of her inner turmoil. Recognizing the unraveling threads of her story and the enormity of her emotions, Weston felt the weight of the truth settle in the pit of his stomach. Jamie was more than just an acquaintance. She was a pivotal piece in this tragic puzzle, linked to Mia's fate in ways that could no longer be denied. As he prepared to bring her in for further questioning, he could sense clarity coalescing within the web of chaos. The pursuit for justice was deepening, and fresh accountability was on the horizon. The trial. The courtroom was a juxtaposition of somber realities and palpable tension, where the weight of grief mingled with the anxieties of justice. As families filled the benches, the atmosphere turned electric, each person bearing the burden of loss and the need for closure. At the front, Jamie stood, a shadow of herself, clutching her attorney's papers, her eyes flitting nervously between the judge and the gallery. Officer Weston sat amongst the crowd, his heart heavy with memories of Mia, the vibrant life that had danced through town like a breeze. Now a spotlight shone on the realities of that life extinguished too soon. The space she occupied in their lives overshadowed by the impending trial. The hash of evidence, testimonies, and conjectures had converged at this singular moment in time. The prosecutor rose first, her voice steady as she outlined the tragic sequence. On the night of September 14, Mia Carter was brutally attacked after leaving the cafe. Evidence indicates that the defendant, Jamie Collins, harbored motive driven by jealousy and emotional turmoil. The words dripped with the pain of what Mia had suffered in an echo of the last moments of her life. Weston watched as the faces of Mia's family contorted with anguish, their clenched fists betraying the rawness of their emotions. As details of the case unfolded, the tension heightened. Testimony ascribed to Jamie revealed a struggle with mental health, a restless spirit overshadowed by rejection and longing. "I just wanted her to notice me," Jamie's voice echoed hauntingly in response to the prosecutor's inquiries, her tone revealing both remorse and lingering resentment. As the defense lawyer took the stand, painting Jamie as a victim of circumstance, Officer Weston felt the trial shift uneasily. He had witnessed Jamie's confusion and anger firsthand, yet a part of him bristled against the narrative of pity. This was not a tragedy born from mere misunderstanding, but from choices made in the crucible of emotion. The jurors listened intently, their expressions carefully masked, each weighing the testimonies against the backdrop of Mia's story. With each admission, it became evident that Jamie's submerged insecurities had engendered a scenario that spiraled entirely out of control. As the trial neared its conclusion, the gravity of the decision weighed heavily upon everyone present. Weston could sense the heart of the community hanging in balance justice for Mia, a chance to confront the specters born from loss and betrayal. Would they render the verdict that echoed through the town's fabric, a call for accountability and healing? The tension hummed, an unresolved chord in the melodious yet tragic narrative of Harrowdale, awaiting its final resolution. The aftermath. The verdict hung in the air like the heavy scent of impending rain, charged with the emotions of a community forever altered. As the jury delivered their decision, guilty of manslaughter whispers echoed throughout the courtroom, a collective sigh escaping from Mia's family as the reality of justice began to settle in. Yet, there were no celebrations, only an aching heaviness that remained. Outside, the typically vibrant streets of Harrowdale felt muted, the hum of life temporarily stifled. Residents passed each other quietly, their conversations hushed, the reckless laughter of the past replaced by the subtle shift of loss that lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Mia's cafe, which had once served as a gathering place, now stood shrouded in grief and memories, each corner echoing the joys of her presence now stripped away. Officer Weston returned to his day-to-day routine, but nothing felt the same. Each interaction, every noise of daily life, seemed charged, awash with an unshakable sorrow. He visited Mia's gravesite, a plot lined with flowers and handwritten noticing, attempt to honor a life that had meant so much to so many. Standing there, he could almost hear her laughter dancing on the breeze, a bittersweet reminder of what once was. In the months that followed, Harrowdale braced for the long process of healing. The town opened its heart through community support, a fundraiser for mental health awareness, to help ensure that tragedies like Mia's were confronted before they spiraled out of control. Weston often spoke at events, sharing the importance of open dialogue among friends and the need for compassion amidst turmoil. As Jamie served her sentence locked away with her own demons, Weston contemplated the complexities that lay at the intersection of fate and choice. Her actions could not be excused, but they told a larger story of a young woman lost in the shadows of envy and despair. Mia's death became a catalyst for change, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the unseen battles many face. As the seasons shifted, verdant greens of summer folded into the golden hues of autumn. The renewed spirit of Harrowdale focused on forging connections and prioritizing kindness, determined to ensure that they never forgot the lessons learned amid the chaos. In a small town that had witnessed both joy and heartache, life moved forward, the scars remaining as a testament to resilience. While the echoes of Mia Carter would forever permeate the heart of Harrowdale, hope sprang forth from the tragedy, nurturing a community that emerged stronger, united in their journey toward healing. Reflection. As the calendar turned, marking the anniversaries of Mia's death, the atmosphere in Harrowdale remained tinged with sadness, yet undeniably resilient. Officer Weston found himself absorbed in reflections of the case, thoughts weaving through emotions, both familiar and foreign. Mia had been more than just a victim. She was a light. Her laughter, her kindness, and her spirit all left an indelible mark on those who loved her. He often replayed the moments leading up to the trial, the fragments of Jamie's testimony still echoing in his mind. Each word felt like a crack splitting the foundation of friendships, a reminder that devastation sometimes lay hidden beneath surface appearances. There was beauty in connection, but as the case had shown, there was danger as well, danger that could erupt from jealousy, misunderstanding, or a simple desire to be known. In quiet moments, he would find himself walking through the town square, each person he passed a part of the fabric that was Harrowdale tightly woven, yet fraying at the edges from sorrow and confusion. Eager to honor Mia, Weston often volunteered at the local community center, ensuring that young adults had safe spaces to discuss their feelings. He had witnessed too many lives disrupted by turmoil and silence. Though the pain would never fully subside, he understood the importance of remembering and of growing from loss. In those reflections lay the seed of hope, a belief that through awareness and understanding, hearts could mend and scars could weave together strong connections. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the town, Weston smiled softly to himself. His spirit would endure not simply as a memory of tragedy, but as a call to action for compassion. And in the fabric of Harrowdale, there was potential for healing, a chance to build bridges toward brighter tomorrows.